I never played Dungeons and Dragons growing up. I always loved video games, and a lot of my nerdier friends in high school did play D&D, but at the end of the day, I was just too busy with schoolwork and playing soccer every weekend to really have the time to dig in. And besides, a majority of my friends were already playing games like Call of Duty and Halo anyways, so spending my time there just made more sense. So that meant that up until literally these past 2 weeks, and my 25th year on this earth, I have never played or watched any Dungeons and Dragons. But that all changed recently, quite honestly, because of the hype. I had already seen raving reviews for Wasteland 3, another acclaimed CRPG, and after not picking that game up, and when I saw once again more raving reviews for the alpha of Baldurs Gate 3, I decided it was finally time for me to jump into a format of games I had never experienced. I've always loved story games like Mass Effect, Dragon Age, and the Elder Scrolls, and immersive sims like Deus Ex and Prey. So I figured a lore-dense and deeply immersive game like Baldur's Gate would be right up my alley. And so, for the first time ever, I started playing Dungeons and Dragons, or at least the video game version. And through my now first 20 hours with the game, I have grown to truly love the experience I have been given, especially as someone new to the D&D world. But now nearing the end of my playthrough of the alpha, I have one enormous concern that in my estimations needs to be addressed in order for this game to go from being great to a masterclass in design. So let's talk about it. My initial impressions of Baldur's Gate 3 were mixed. Jump onto these little ridges, which would be perfect. Oh shit, wait. The storyline of the game was, from the start, fairly gripping, and I liked the characters, mainly due to their well-written and engaging dialogue. But if I'm going to be honest, the combat was less than a good first impression. Coming from a gamer that was used to playing games like Valorant, Call of Duty, and Fortnite, the much, and I mean much, slower pace of the turn-based combat at first left a sour taste in my mouth. I understood the tactical angle the game was trying to provide. After all, I had played XCOM and Gears Tactics before as well, with the same style of combat. But to be frank, I just found those games boring initially as well. In fact, that is why I ended up playing XCOM and Gears Tactics for only 2 hours respectively, as those games had bored me with their combat from the get-go. Waiting for literal multitudes of minutes for enemies to make a move and for me to get control of my character's back in Baldur's Gate 3 really soured the initial experience. But as I began to play more and more, and get more characters in my group alongside fighting with me and figuring out more tactics I could use in combat, like pushing enemies off ledges, I began to like the system a hell of a lot more. It still wasn't the greatest combat I have ever played in a game, but it was in-depth and required thought, which at least kept me engaged. And more importantly, it was all supplemental to the actual meat of the game, at least from my vantage point, the story and decision making. Although this was my first ever Dungeons and Dragons game, I quickly became accustomed to the idea of dice rolls, and I really liked it. The adrenaline rush of hitting a 20 in or out of combat was exhilarating. Being able to make decisions in dialogue on the fly based on how I had spec'd my character was awesome. But even more fun was choosing a persuade option and clicking the little 20-sided die like a slot machine in Vegas. Was I going to hit above 10 on this deceive roll? Because if I didn't, the goblin leader was for sure going to discover my secret plan to assassinate him, meaning my already injured group of heroes was for sure going to die against the goblin horde that I had sort of grown to like. Baldur's Gate was always throwing dice rolls at me. In almost all of my conversations and almost all of the decisions I was making, it came down to a dice roll. And this is what really started me getting so pumped on the game. I loved choosing how I would spec my character and party up. That way I would have more options in the dice rolls. And the best part about it was because of the great writers and storytellers at Larian, I felt as though I was rewarded for failing or succeeding at the dice rolls. The story carried on either way, and it felt as if I was crafting my own adventure with all the impactful decisions I was making. But there is one glaring and disastrous problem with this system as it currently stands. You see, while it is fun to level up your characters, find new storylines, make crazy decisions, and form bonds with exciting characters across the world, all determined by the roll of a die, none of it actually matters. Because no matter what I do in Baldur's Gate 3, whether that be failing a dice roll, dying in combat, or saying the wrong thing in dialogue, I can always hit the reload button. And that is the big problem with Baldur's Gate 3. Before I even started playing Baldur's Gate, I was interested in the game because of, like I noted, the reviews. But even more importantly, I was always curious about the world of D&D. A world with decisions and consequences, where your character could die if you made the wrong turn, and you would have to start from scratch with a new character, all in the same world with friends. Baldur's Gate 3 has nailed the decision part, in an interesting and engaging world full of wonderful adventures and characters. But it miserably fails at arguably the thing that makes D&D Dungeons and Dragons: the consequences. In my estimation, the whole point of D&D is that every choice I can make can have a huge impact on my story. And in Baldur's Gate 3, that just doesn't happen. Take, for instance, this example from my stream where I tried to light a kid on fire. Don't join the group unless I help the kids? God, this guy is such a baby. You know what? I don't even want you in my group, dude. Get the kid killed. All right, kid. I say we just fuck him up, chat. All right, you know what? You know what we're doing, chat? Drastic times call for drastic measures. Guys, this is a D&D game, and I've heard in D&D games you can do whatever the fuck you want. So this kid's fucking dead. This moment on stream was awesome and funny, and resulted in the whole town attacking me. But after we, that being myself and everyone on stream, had all had a laugh, I started to wonder if it was really a good thing that I could just reload my save after I decided to go full Zac Efron and murder all the innocent kids. And then I started to think even more. While I loved making these cool decisions, and the dice rolls, thinking back, whenever I failed a really important one, I always just reloaded my save. Because, well, this game is hard. And the game being hard is a good thing. I liked the challenge because it forced me to make difficult decisions. In other RPGs, I always knew I could fight my way out of a problem if there was one, or there was always a good answer to every problem. But here, I actually started making bad moral decisions, just so I wouldn't have to fight some high-level enemies, which made the game so much more engaging. But the issue was, whenever I failed those speech checks to get myself out of a sticky situation, I simply reloaded immediately, or proceeded to get into an unwinnable combat situation and dying immediately and reloading again. Isn't this the antithesis of what D&D should be? And I understand that is weird, coming from someone that's never actually played Dungeons and Dragons before. But after talking with my viewers on stream, and talking in depth with my Twitch moderator, who's actually been a dungeon master for a couple years now, they all agree as well. D&D is about decision and consequence. And by completely removing the consequence, Baldur's Gate 3 is stripping a lot of the magic of D&D away. Instead of allowing players to just simply reload whenever they make a mistake or get unlucky, Larian should, as much as possible, make players feel the consequence of their actions. Take out the saving and loading system as it stands entirely. Instead, simply have the game autosave every 30 seconds or so on each of your profiles, and do not allow a player to overwrite any of the saves with their own at any point. Suddenly, every decision you make, every dice roll you fail or succeed at, every enemy you kill, has a much more engrossing and long-lasting impact on the player. And the best news of all for Baldur's Gate 3 developers is this is so easily entwined into the lore as well. In the game, there are multiple people infected by what are called mind flares, from an alien ship that essentially just turn you into a giant vagina-faced alien monster. And through your travels, you meet and discuss with many people, including those in your crew who have these mind flares. If you die in the game, instead of having you reload from your nearest save point, Larian could easily have you create a new character from scratch that simply shows up in town as someone else that had a mind flare from the ship. And later down the line in the story, you could come up with a whole matter of different excuses for why new characters are showing up. You could even always say that your party escaped alive except for you. That way you could still get to develop your storylines with the side characters you already know, since the developers probably don't have the bandwidth to create thousands and thousands of interesting characters that can die off forever. But by just allowing you, the character, to actually die, and by forcing the player to really live with the decisions and unlucky rolls they get, instead of just reloading, you will not only be staying more true to the D&D formula, but you will also be making an immensely better and more impactful game. Overall though, I've really liked my time with Baldur's Gate 3, and as my first real dip into the magical world of Dungeons & Dragons, I can already say it has me hooked. And it's because of this very fact that I even more so hope that the developers at Larian, and maybe even the community at large, can come together and discuss if they want to see something like this. The game is already so great, even in alpha, on so many levels, whether that be world building, story, characters, decision making, and deep combat. But we have all seen games like that before. Games that move us because of the great time we had with them. If Baldur's Gate 3 wants to be a masterpiece rather than just another great game, they need to push the envelope and add real consequences that made Dungeons & Dragons so fun for many in the first place. But yeah guys, hopefully you enjoyed the video. I really enjoy making a ton of deep dive gaming videos like this. And I've been putting in a lot of work recently, and hopefully you guys can see that in all of the new videos I've been putting out. And I just really want to know from watching this, what do you guys think about Baldur's Gate 3? Do you think that saving should be removed from the game entirely? Are you okay with your character dying forever? And how are you liking the game in general so far, especially if you're new to D&D like me or a veteran? And let me know what topics you guys want to see in future videos. As always, if you did enjoy the content, make sure to like and subscribe, and go check me out on my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/FranklyGaming if you want to see me play games live and just get to know and support me more, as that is my main content creation channel I'm trying to grow. So as always guys, I'll see you next time.